In this video, I'm going to talk about the Dragon X8 compound bow and what to do if your string comes off. So when you get a compound bow, a Dragon X8, it should look like this. However, if you draw the bow back and let go without an arrow on it, it could end up looking like this. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to fix this, and I'm also going to tell you first how to avoid it. When Sanlita ships these bows, they ship them at the draw weight set so low that it typically would just cause the string to come off and not destroy the bow. What I want to do now is point out a few things to look for if your string has come off because you've dry fired your bow, and to make sure those things are in place, and then it's just a matter of putting the string back on. For putting the string back on, we're going to loosen the limb bolts out a little bit farther. That's going to allow the limbs to come closer together. It's going to allow us to put the cam in its proper position and put the string back on. Then we can tighten the limb bolts back up. One of the places to look first is there is a little C-clamp on the end of the axle on both sides of the axle here. You want to make sure those C-clamps are in place. If one has come off, if flown off in the process, that means your axle is no longer secured properly. It could eventually come out and cause the cam to come flying off. That could be a very dangerous situation. So verify that your C-clamps, the C-clamp right on the end, is in place. The first thing I like to do is take a pencil and mark the bolt, the limb bolt that we'll be turning, put a straight line up onto the pocket right here that the limb bolt secures into. So that straight line going on the limb bolt and on the outside of the pocket here, that's just going to help us keep track of how many times we're turning the limb bolt in this process. So again, I'm putting a straight line here and onto the pocket here. So as I turn the limb bolt a full rotation, I'll be able to keep track and count how many times. So I'll take my largest Allen wrench that comes with the bow, I'll put it in here, I see where my line is, now I'm going to turn it. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Carefully turning the bow and turning the bow around so I can do the same on the other end. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 limb bolt turns. Okay, so now we've loosened our limb bolts out even farther. I want to make sure that my limbs are in the pocket properly, everything's secured. I'll put a little pressure this way because there's little knobs in here that help hold the limb in place. So I've done that. Now for the string is going to go around the outside of the cam. Alright, here's another look. So let me pop this off for a second. Okay, let's say your cam is sitting like that. The cable, we want it to the inside, not toward the outside, but we want the cable on that side. See how that's going in there? Now on the other end, the cable, I don't want it to the outside, I want it coming to the inside. Now for the string, it's attached to the knob here. You put it in the track of the cam, around. Now I'm going to come over on this end, I'm going to go around the cam, come through the yoke system here, and to get started I'm going to put it on the knob. Now we're going to need to feed this around the cam. Now also I can see my cables, one's on one side of the rod, one's on the other. They both need to be on the inside of the rod. Now I can see my cable slide is missing too, so, and the Peep sight has come out. So those are two things we'll also want to replace. Okay, so right here I'm not able to slip this around, which means I need to loosen my limb bolt a little bit more. So I'm going to take my Allen wrench, I'm looking at my mark that I have, and I'm just going to take it out 3 more turns. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Alright, let's see if that gives us enough. We're getting closer. We're going to need to take it a little bit more. Do 3 more turns. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so now my string is back on. Now's a good time to reinsert your Peep sight. Okay, so right now my D loop is facing this way. When I tighten everything back up, it probably will spin around in that way. But I'm going to insert my Peep sight in the direction I need it in relation to the D loop. So when I do this, when I put this in the string, I want the top that's going to be facing more toward the top cam in the same direction as the D loop. And you can see where my string was split before. I'm just going to put that in there. Slide these a little bit closer just to hold it in the position while I'm tightening the limbs back up. Make sure all of these are in place. Now another thing I want to do before I tighten everything all the way back up is check the other side. So my cables are in the correct position there. You want to make sure those are in their slots properly. So the cables are going to be around the half moon away from the draw length module, so on that side of it. Now I can go ahead and tighten up my limbs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now normally you only do 2 rotations on a side at a time, but in this situation, because I'm so far out, I'm just going to get it started with those 6, but then after that I'm only going to go 2 at a side, on a side at a time. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now as I hit 6, I'm starting to get a little bit of tension on there. So now I'm going to do 2 at a time. Okay, now the next thing I want to do is check my tiller measurement. So I'm going to take a tape measure, I'm going to put it underneath the yoke here, hook it on the outside of the limb pocket. Now I have 12.5 inches to the outside edge of the string here. And as I check it on the other end, exactly on 12.5 inches to the outside edge of the string there with where it currently is. Depending on how many turns you've done, it will be less or more than that number. But they're equal, that's the key. They're the same. Because if we don't have the same number of rotations, it's going to change the distance from the string to where the outside edge of that limb pocket is, and the bow will not have the same rotation as the cams turn. Okay, now that I have the string back in place, I want to go over everything. Double check my C clamps on the end of each axle. They're in place properly on both ends, looking good. Next I want to look at my cable, where the cable goes on the cam. It's on the outside of that half moon away from the mod, so that's in the correct position. On the other end, same thing, on the outside edge of that half moon away from the draw mod. I look at my draw mod to make sure that the hash mark, that little line on the cam here, is in line with the corresponding number here. So right now, out of the box, it came to me at, looks like it's on number 5 there. And yes, it's on number 5 the other end. So those are the same. Now I want to resist the urge to draw the bow back. And I'm going to put an arrow on the string. Currently there's no arrow rest, so I'm not going to fire this arrow. However, if it was to accidentally go off unintentionally, it's at least going to provide the force against the string to prevent it from, you know, derailing again or coming off. Now I do have a target right there. I'll just pull this back here. Okay, everything's looking good. Now I just need to get my cable slide back on there. Let me go locate that, and I will be right back to show you how to make sure you reinstall the cable slide correctly. If you locate your cable slide and it's cracked or broken or anything, just contact Sanlita and ask them to send you a new one. So here's the cable slide component. As you can see, there's two little hooks here, and the cables ride through those hooks. One is longer than the other. So here it is. So as you can see, the hook on that side is longer than the other. So when you put the cable slide onto the slide rail, you want the longer hook toward the front, toward that direction. And it's because of the position of that cable. Now, the X in the cables should be below the slide here. So when you put this cable slide on, you want to hook the cable on in that direction on first. It'll be easier because it's actually behind. So I'm just pulling it into the slot. I'm just pushing it around that hook. Now for the other side, I'm going to pull it into that hook. Now both of those cables are running into the cable slide the way that it needs to, and you'll see a gap right here between the two cables when it's properly installed on the cable slide. Now this bow is ready to be shot again. It just needs the arrow rest on. So this bow was returned, came fresh out of the box. The person probably took it right out of the box. I mean, this thing is brand new. Never even had the arrow rest put on it. They probably just pulled it back and let it go and popped the string off. It's hitting. So we're back in business. This bow is ready to go. It's probably only ever had one shot on it at a very low draw weight, and it's ready to go.